While Bitcoin saw a major pump yesterday, Ethereum actually saw a major dump to the downside. I'm kinda bearish right now on both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm expecting lower targets to be hit this week. In today's video, I will share my analysis with you guys and a couple of trading ideas. Okay guys, there's currently a few reasons why I'm cautiously bearish on Bitcoin. After seeing last week's consolidation area right over here for the price of Bitcoin, currently we can see that Bitcoin broke out of that consolidation area and is currently consolidating above that previous week's range. But what we can basically see is that we were ranging over here for Bitcoin, and currently we are potentially looking at manipulation before potential expansion towards the downside, aka we are looking at a potential PO3 pattern for the price of Bitcoin right over here. Now that is not the only reason why I'm cautiously bearish on Bitcoin. What we can also see is that Bitcoin is currently taking out that major Newsweek event over here that we put in during the tariff news announcement. I've been eyeing up this week for weeks now, and we have currently taken out the top of that week and also filled obviously 50%, which is why I think currently Bitcoin is potentially manipulating a lot of buys and liquidity over here before potentially we could be seeing a move towards the downside. Now on the other hand, another reason for me is the weekly chart, because we can see that Bitcoin is currently creating a green weekly candle towards the upside, but it has no wick to the downside or whatsoever. Now to me guys, this is obviously a very bearish sign, because when we look at the previous weekly candles that were all green, they all have wicks to the downside before expanding towards the upside. Now in my opinion, it would be a very rare occurrence if Bitcoin would put in no weekly wick to the downside and then just start expanding towards higher targets without taking out that weekly candle first. Now while taking out this wick over here, the price of Bitcoin is also running into this strong supply area that we were forming right over here. So Bitcoin was forming quite some strong supply that led to this impulse to the downside over here, and currently we are basically taking out this top of the wick, which was basically acting as an inducement for the supply area right over here, aka the gray box. Now this is definitely an area that will act as very strong resistance and where Bitcoin could potentially reject from. So personally I'm slightly more bearish right over here on Bitcoin, and I'm kind of expecting Bitcoin this week to give us a reversal and to go and take out at least the lows of this range right over here to complete that potential PO3 pattern. We could even see lower prices and maybe even take out this sell side liquidity and also this sell side liquidity over here. So personally for the remainder of the week, I'm bearish on Bitcoin. I'm looking for shorts on Bitcoin and I'm targeting lower prices over here instead. Whoops, you don't want your portfolio to drop like that. So make sure to like and subscribe, and let's keep things steady. Now if you obviously want to get these short executions and these short trades on the silver platter, you have to join the premium section of the Tribe Capital community. It's completely free now for 14 days, no strings attached, no credit card information needed, nothing. All that you have to do is follow the link in the description down below, and I'll catch you guys there. That's also where I'm currently sharing my brand new Bitcoin short idea. In the meantime, my short idea that I shared with you guys on Ethereum last week on Thursday is playing out beautifully. We got pretty close to our stop loss, but our invalidation held, as you can see, and we are seeing a beautiful move towards the downside, and we already hit 2 take profit targets. But I might be looking for brand new shorts on Ethereum this week, and I'll explain to you guys why. I kind of really like the structure over here. I think it's really bearish, because what we were seeing over here is that Ethereum was slow grinding towards the upside. Right now this slow grind led to an impulse to the downside. That impulse to the downside swept all of the liquidity that we were building up beneath the lows over here, and then Ethereum saw a very aggressive push towards the upside right over here, and it broke structure towards the upside. Now if bulls are in control over here, you do not want to take out the low right over here anymore. This is a low that should be heavily protected by the bulls in my opinion. But as you can see, the bears definitely took control right there, pushed the price down again, and they took out the low right over here. Now in that case, I think that this high should be holding if bears want to remain in control. Now if bears want to unload their positions, we have to analyze where the liquidity is resting, and I do think there's plenty of liquidity resting beneath this wick over here, and I also do think that there's plenty of liquidity resting at this level right over here. So if this is the target for the bears, they need to control and protect the top of the high over here and then push the price towards the downside. Now this is a scenario that I definitely could be seeing this week on Ethereum, because while price is slow grinding towards the upside like we see over here, what it's basically doing is that it's engineering plenty of liquidity beneath all of these lows. Now, why is it engineering liquidity in that way? Because if price, for example, breaks out above that high with an impulse right over here. With Tribe Capital, we are currently running a 14-day trial period to our premium section, completely for free. No strings attached, not a single dollar, no credit card information needed, no, completely for free, 14-day of premium access to try out what I think is the best and most authentic trading community in the space, Tribe Capital. You can find a link to this free trial period in the description down below. It's the first link right there. What do we think is going on in the mind of the retail traders? Exactly. They are looking for long positions because they see the price breaking above the previous high. They think price is breaking out, so they long the price of Ethereum with their stop loss beneath that low, targeting higher levels. Now, this is actually not a valid break of structure. It's a fake one, because the high that we break through, aka the high right over here, carries no significance. Why does it carry no significance? Because that highs only bring us to a higher low and then a higher high. If that high, for example, would have brought us to a lower low over here compared to this low that brought us to that high, and then would have seen an impulse towards the upside, this would have been a valid break of structure where you could have looked for valid long positions up on the pullback targeting higher levels. But what we are now looking at is simply a fake break of structure that, in my opinion, is just there to engineer plenty of liquidity beneath all of these lows over here. Now if that then gets swept with an aggressive push like we saw over here, and then we push back above that high, you really need to protect that low. So the fact that the bulls couldn't control this low, couldn't protect that low yesterday, I think is a major sign of weakness by the bears, by the bulls I mean. And I think price could definitely be mitigating, for example, a bit of this inefficient move over here to the downside. Hell, it could even take out the high over here. As long as this high remains protected on the price of Ethereum, I'm expecting lower prices for this week. We can also see the brighter data, the weekly distance statistics on Ethereum are showcasing a high probability of 72% that the weekly high is going to hold, because there's a 28% that it's going to get broken. And there's only a 29.2% chance based off the current move that we have seen from the weekly high to the weekly low that we're going to take the weekly high out as well. So that means that, in my opinion, there's a high probability based off distance that the weekly high on Ethereum is going to hold. And we can also see that it's very unlikely that the current P2, the second pivot for the week, is in. 84% of the weeks have moved further than 7.4% to the downside, like we have seen so far. So basically that means there's a high probability the weekly high is going to hold on Ethereum, and there's a high probability that we're going to see a bigger move this week on Ethereum compared to the current move that we have seen so far, which means that I prefer to look for shorts. I don't know what you're gonna do, but that's what I'm gonna do. So, while we're looking for shorts on Bitcoin and Ethereum, I want to thank you guys for watching to today's video. But before you guys leave, I want to ask you for a favor. I would honestly love it if you could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and last guys, but not least, make sure to check out the 14-day completely free trial period to what I think is the most authentic and also the best trading community in the space, Tribe Capital. You can find the link in the description down below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace!